There's a weed killer sitting on every shelf at Home Depot right now that has been linked to terminal cancer and more than 100,000 lawsuits. It costs $15 to $25 a bottle. It was made by a company that was caught ghostwriting its own safety studies in a scandal that became known as the Monsanto Papers. And it was classified as a probable human carcinogen by the World Health Organization in 2015. Its manufacturer has already paid more than $10 billion in lawsuit settlements to people who are dying of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and yet it is still for sale in every garden aisle in America. Right next to it in the same store sits a bag of industrial salt that costs less than $3. That bag of salt kills weeds permanently in driveway cracks between pavers and along sidewalks. It does not cause cancer. It does not require professional applicator or a license. It does not need to be reapplied every season because the residual salt prevents regrowth, and it costs less than $1 per application for your entire driveway, but nobody told you about it. Not the hardware store that profits from selling you a new bottle of herbicide every spring. Not the lawn care company that charges you $300 a year to spray the same probable carcinogen on your property. Not the corporation that spent decades burying the evidence about what their product does to the human body. This is the story of the $1 weed killer that a $160 billion industry buried. Welcome to Forbidden Home Science. If you are not subscribed yet, hit subscribe and the bell. This is where we dig up what the chemical industry and the outdoor industry work together to bury. In 1974, a chemist named John Franz, working inside the laboratories of the Monsanto Company, synthesized a molecule that would change agriculture and lawn care forever. The molecule was called glyphosate. Monsanto branded it Roundup and launched it as the ultimate definitive answer to unwanted vegetation. The marketing campaign was relentless, sophisticated, and devastatingly effective. Television commercials showed smiling families with pristine lawns and spotless driveways, all thanks to one magic bottle. By the 1990s, Roundup had become the single most popular herbicide on the planet, sold in more than 130 countries. Homeowners trusted it the way they trusted aspirin or baking soda. Farmers sprayed it by the hundreds of millions of gallons across American cropland every growing season. School groundskeepers used it weekly to keep playgrounds looking clean and safe for children. Municipalities sprayed it along sidewalks, highway medians, and public parks where families walked their dogs and children played in the grass. By 2014, over 250 million pounds of glyphosate were being applied in the United States alone every single year. 250 million pounds of a single synthetic chemical soaking into the ground beneath your feet. Monsanto told the world it was perfectly safe. They told federal regulators it was safe. They published study after study after study that concluded it was safe. But in 2015, something cracked wide open. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is the Cancer Research Division of the World Health Organization, conducted a comprehensive review of decades of independent scientific studies from laboratories around the world. Their conclusions sent shockwaves through the entire agrochemical industry. Glyphosate was officially classified as probably carcinogenic to humans. That means the product being dumped at a rate of 250 million pounds per year onto American soil was probably causing cancer in the people exposed to it. Monsanto refused to accept the finding. Internal documents that were later revealed during court proceedings showed something far worse than corporate denial. Monsanto employees had been ghostwriting scientific papers that claimed glyphosate was safe and then paying outside academics to put their names on those papers as the listed authors. These documents became known around the world as the Monsanto Papers. They showed internal emails where company executives discussed detailed strategies to discredit and professionally destroy independent researchers who raised safety concerns about glyphosate. They showed internal communications where Monsanto's own scientists privately admitted that their product testing protocols were inadequate and incomplete. And they showed that when a school groundskeeper named Dwayne Lee Johnson called Monsanto directly in 2014 to report that he had been accidentally soaked head to toe in Roundup during a spraying accident on school grounds and that strange and painful lesions were now appearing across his body, the company's own medical sciences executive reviewed the call and said the story did not make any sense to him. He never returned the call. Dwayne Johnson went on to develop terminal non-Hodgkin lymphoma, painful lesions eventually. Covered more than 80% of his body. His doctors told him he was going to die and he had to sit down with his 3 young children and tell them that their father would not be coming home. Now here is where this story intersects directly with your driveway and your wallet. This video is just the surface of what the chemical lawn care industry has hidden from you for decades. I have collected everything they do not want you to know and organized it all into one complete resource, all inside the complete Forbidden Home Science Vault. The driveway destroyer formula showing the exact salt to vinegar ratios that permanently eliminate weeds in concrete cracks with a single application. The paver gap protocol that kills growth between patio stones and decorative pavers without a single drop of chemical herbicide ever touching your property. The fence line defense system that creates a permanent no-growth vegetation barrier along fence spaces using materials from any hardware store for under $5 total. The concrete crack killer guide with detailed application maps for driveways, sidewalks, walkways, and garage aprons. The weed prevention barrier method that stops new seeds from germinating before they ever break the surface using zero commercial products and zero recurring costs. And the full Roundup Exposed dossier compiling every verified data point, every major lawsuit verdict, and every country that has banned glyphosate while America still sells it on shelves. Over 10 guides in one vault, no fluff, straight to the point with step-by-step instructions you can use this weekend. The link is in the description, but stay here. The video is just getting started. In 2018, Dwayne Johnson became the first cancer patient in history to take the Monsanto company to trial over Roundup exposure. The courtroom was in San Francisco, California. The jury heard weeks of testimony, reviewed internal Monsanto documents that had been sealed for years, and listened to medical experts explain precisely how glyphosate damages human DNA at the cellular level. They deliberated for 3 full days, and then they returned a unanimous verdict that shook the entire chemical industry to its foundation. The jury found that Monsanto had acted with malice and oppression because they knew what they were doing was wrong, and did it anyway with reckless disregard for human life. They awarded Dwayne Johnson $289 million. That number was later reduced by a judge to $78 million and further reduced on appeal to roughly $20 million. But the floodgates had been blown wide open and could never be closed again. Since that landmark verdict, more than 100,000 people have filed similar lawsuits against Bayer, the German pharmaceutical giant that purchased Monsanto in 2018 for $63 billion. In January of 2024, a Pennsylvania man named John McKivison was awarded $2.25 billion by a jury after developing non-Hodgkin lymphoma from years of residential Roundup use. That verdict was later reduced to $400 million. In March of 2025, a Georgia jury awarded farmer John Barnes $2.065 billion for the same disease caused by the same product. $2 billion from a single American jury for a single man who used product you can buy right now for $15. As of early 2026, Bayer has paid out more than $10 billion in settlements and still faces over 58,000 active cancer claims in American courts. In February of 2026, Bayer proposed a $7.25 billion class settlement to try to resolve the remaining cases. The product that has cost its maker more than $10 billion in cancer lawsuit payouts is still sitting on the shelf between the potting soil and the mulch. Let that sink in before we continue. If you have made it this far, you already know more about what is really sitting in your garage than 99% of homeowners in America. You are still paying for professional weed control services that use the exact same probable carcinogen that a jury just ordered $2 billion in damages for. Subscribe and share this with every homeowner you know who deserves to hear what they are actually spraying around their families. And remember, everything the chemical industry buried is waiting for you in the complete Forbidden Home Science Vault. Link in the description. Now stay with me. The next vault is the heaviest one we have ever opened. So here's the question that nobody in the lawn care industry wants you to ask out loud. If glyphosate has been classified as a probable carcinogen by the World Health Organization and has cost its manufacturer more than $10 billion in legal settlements and has been banned or restricted in 38 countries around the world, why is it still sitting on store shelves at Walmart and Home Depot and Lowe's across America? The answer is not science. The answer is a number. The United States landscaping and lawn care services industry generated over $159 billion in revenue in 2024 alone. That is not a misquote. $159 billion spent annually on keeping grass green and weeds dead across American properties. Companies like True Green, Scott's, Miracle Grow, and Bayer depend on you purchasing herbicides and lawn care services repeatedly, season after season, year after year. The entire business model of the lawn care industry is built on a carefully engineered cycle of dependency. Weeds grow in your driveway cracks in the spring. You drive to the hardware store and buy a $15 bottle of Roundup. The weeds die temporarily, and then they come back 6 weeks later. You buy another bottle, the weeds come back again the following season. Eventually, you give up on doing it yourself, and you call a professional lawn care service. The professional shows up and sprays glyphosate, the exact same active ingredient, onto your property. The weeds return next season, and the professional returns next season and charges you $50 to $80 per visit, 4 to 6 times a year. That is $200 to $480 annually for someone to repeatedly spray a probable carcinogen around the property where your children and pets play. Year after year after year, with the problem never permanently solved, because a permanently solved problem is a permanently lost customer. The lawn care industry does not want your weed problem to end. They need it to continue forever. Now imagine a product that kills weeds once and prevents regrowth in that exact spot for years without reapplication. A product that costs less than $1 per application for your entire driveway. A product that requires no specialized equipment, no applicator license, no professional service call. A product that humanity has used for thousands of years, that exists in nature, and that carries zero cancer risk. That product cannot be patented by a chemical corporation. It cannot generate recurring seasonal revenue. It cannot justify an $80 service visit. And what cannot be monetized by the industry cannot be marketed by the industry. So it was never marketed, it was never recommended, it was never mentioned. The numbers tell the rest of the story. The average American household spent $606 on lawn and garden care in 2024, which is a 20% increase since 2020. Multiply that spending across 130 million American households, and you begin to understand why absolutely nobody with a financial interest in this industry ever told you about industrial salt. Here is exactly what to do, and I will walk you through every step. Go to any hardware store in America and walk to the driveway and ice melt section near the back. You will find large bags of sodium chloride, which is industrial grade salt, not the table salt you cook with. A 10 lb bag costs less than $3 and will treat your entire driveway and sidewalks multiple times over. Next, walk to the garden section and find horticultural vinegar. This is not the 5% acetic acid sitting in your kitchen pantry. This is 20% concentration vinegar specifically formulated for vegetation control and sold in most garden centers for $5 to $8 per gallon. That single gallon will last you months of applications. Here's the application method that works every time. Choose a dry day with no rain in the forecast for at least 48 hours. Pour the industrial sodium chloride directly into every crack, gap, expansion joint, and seam in your driveway, patio, sidewalk, and between every paver stone. Use approximately 2 teaspoons of salt per linear foot of crack for thorough coverage. Then take the horticultural vinegar and spray it directly onto any visible green growth, coating the leaves and stems completely. The 20% acetic acid in the vinegar burns through plant tissue on contact, killing visible growth within hours. The salt penetrates downward through the crack to the root system and dehydrates the entire plant from the inside out. And the residual salt that remains lodged in the crack after the water evaporates creates a hostile zone where no new seed can ever successfully germinate. One application, $1, permanent results on hard surfaces. Now, I need to be completely honest with you because this is what separates real information from dangerous social media misinformation. Salt kills everything that is green. Everything. It does not discriminate between a weed in your lawn and your garden tomatoes. Do not use this method anywhere near your grass, your flower beds, your vegetable garden, or the root zone of any tree you want to keep alive. If wind carries salt granules onto your lawn, the grass will turn brown and die. If rainwater runoff carries dissolved salt toward your rose bushes, the rose bushes will die. This method is designed exclusively for surfaces where you want absolutely zero plant growth of any kind, ever. Driveway cracks between pavers along fence, bases, expansion joints in sidewalks and patios. That is it. If you need weed control inside a garden bed or within 3 ft of ornamental plants, this is not your solution, and I will not pretend otherwise. And the horticultural vinegar at 20% concentration is not a household product. It will burn skin on contact, and it can cause serious eye damage. Wear rubber gloves and protective eyewear every single time you handle it. This is not kitchen vinegar. It is an industrial strength acid, and you need to treat it with the respect it demands. These are real, and pretending they do not exist would make me no different than the corporation that pretended for decades that glyphosate was harmless. Consider what you now know that you did not know 15 minutes ago. A school groundskeeper named Dwayne Johnson called Monsanto after being soaked in their product and developing painful lesions across his body. The company never called him back. He developed terminal cancer. Lesions covered 80% of his body. He told his 3 children he was dying. A jury found that Monsanto acted with malice and awarded him $289 million. Since then, more than 100,000 people have filed similar cancer claims. Bayer has paid over $10 billion in settlements and still faces 58,000 active lawsuits. A Georgia jury awarded a single man over $2 billion in 2025. 38 countries have banned or severely restricted the product, including Germany, which is the home country of Bayer itself. And the product is still on American shelves today, while a $3 bag of salt from the same store does the same job on hard surfaces permanently, without the cancer, without the repeat purchases, and without feeding a $159 billion industry that profits from your problem never being solved. This knowledge was never lost. It was never classified or censored. It was suppressed by something more powerful than any government order. It was suppressed by marketing budgets large enough to drown out simplicity itself, by an industry that needs chemical complexity and seasonal dependency to justify its own existence. The solution was always sitting in the same aisle, 3 shelves below the product that causes cancer. You were just never supposed to look down. If this video opened your eyes, subscribe and share it with every homeowner you know. Every single share is one more household that stops paying for poison and starts solving the problem for $1. The next vault opens soon, and what the chemical industry buried this time is even heavier.